Speaker, innovator, thinker, leader and now author Tramayne Monaghan has recently released a book titled The Shepherd and the Beast. This offering draws on the works of psychologists, myths and fables to highlight important lessons and encourages the reader to question their leadership style and to take time to reflect about how they choose to be in the world. Well, Tramayne Monaghan joins us now via Zoom to tell us more about what's in the read. Tramayne, a very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to Morning Live.
Morning, Superior. Thank you so much for having me.
Good stuff. Good to have you on the show this morning. Give us a brief description of what this book is all about and what propelled you to put it together.
Well, the book started out as a young boy, being thrust into a leadership position very unprepared. I was a quiet boy. I used to tell the story that I used to sit on the field by myself and read my books at break time. And I started playing cricket and I became the cricket captain. And I just realized, looking back at my life, and I think COVID did that for a lot of us, that we got to the stage where we reflected on our lives. And one of the things I reflected on was my journey of leadership was quite difficult because we're ill-prepared to become good leaders. And leaders is not necessarily about being in a management role or being a head of a church or a group. It's just about your interactions with everyday people and being a good human and driving yourself through that journey over and over again to learn and grow. And I think that's what really propelled the book. The book in reality is a story of how we're all the same. That's why it links to psychology and myths and fables, because how is it possible that the Bible tells a story of Jonah and the whale, and there's a Zulu fable about a mom and two children being consumed into the belly of an elephant, or an Eskimo fable about an Inuit person being absorbed into the belly of the whale as well. And they have very little reason to be correlated, except that they're all the same story in the end of the day. And so I started looking at what are these myths and fables that we tell ourselves that are all the same across the globe, and what leadership lessons are attached to those.
And I quite like the fact that the book reflects, this narrative or the reality that we are all the same. And it's, I suppose it centers around the concept of leadership. Do unpack for us what leadership means to you and how you break it down in this book.
So often leadership is spent, especially I guess in your younger years, about title. You're the captain of the team, you're the manager, you've got this big team, but it's not about that. Leadership, I always say, and this is the narrative of the book, is actually a privilege. It's an absolute privilege to be deemed a leader of other people, and it is a massive responsibility. It doesn't matter if you're leading 6,000 staff or one person as a mentor. And the narrative of the book drives that quite strongly, that this is your personal journey to go on. This is something you have to choose every day. You wake up in the morning and say, what are the things I want to learn to be a better leader so that I can grow the world? Because the truth is, if we were all better leaders to each other, we would live in a very different world.
Right. Now share with us these real life lessons and steps you've learned throughout your journey that the reader can take to absorb them, to guide them on their own journey of growth and leadership.
I think, I use a narrative approach of some of the examples I've been in and building characters in the book about stories I've been told from other people who've spoken to me about their leadership journeys. And I use these real world examples and say, there are these two archetypes of leaders you may encounter on your journey. One is the shepherd, who is the guider, the mentor, the aide, who helps you cross the threshold, who will help you guide yourself through this journey, and you'll meet the beast. The beast is a wartime leader. They're strong, they're fiery, and historically, they may cause a little bit of damage, but they can cause the most amount of growth. And the book takes you through steps of, if you identify one of your leaders being a shepherd, how do you deal with that effectively to boost your growth to the level you would with the beast? And if you find one of your leaders being a beast, how do you use techniques and tactics to survive the beast? And then the book further goes on to say, we have to build this duality within us. We can't be the shepherd or the beast. We have to be the shepherd and the beast, because leadership is purely situational. We have to be a specific leader for a specific person in a very set time frame. And how do we become very fluid in our movements between these two?
Now, Tramayne, having said that, do you find that the different leaders sort of rub off different leadership traits in people?
Absolutely. If you're used to having a shepherd leader for long periods of time, you will be more inclined to be more inclusive, more empathetic, more of a thinker. And you will take those tasks that they take on, you will become that because we're human, we do replicate. And the alternative with the beast, if you're used to an environment that is strong, aggressive, very driven, you will take on those traits as well as you go through your leadership journey. And so that's why you have to learn to balance the two and identify who you actually have as a leader now, or who you are as a leader now.
Now, speak to us about the distractions and the failures and how in all that mix and all in that chaos we'll eventually find the balance required to grow, as you put it in this book.
I think that's one of the hardest parts, and probably the harder piece of the book to read, is that during this journey of growth, you have to destroy yourself, because in order to change, we have to be transformed through fire. And that's the beast. The beast is that fire. It's about going and meeting the beast over and over again, and either succumbing to him and becoming stronger, and that in narrative terms means failing, going and performing a task and failing, or you will win and succeed with the beast. And then you also have the challenge to continue going, because the leadership journey, and all journeys, I guess, in life, it just never stops. We have to continue on the journey over and over again. That's the only way to really get through it. And failure and pain, unfortunately, is such a core tenet of this. It's the biggest piece of how we resurrect or regrow or become stronger.
And in that quest of transformation and, transformation and growth, I'm reminded of this narrative that whatever the reason that made the rat to jump from the frying pan into the fire must be hotter than the fire itself.
Now, exactly.
Now, you go on to say that this is a book about facing demons and meeting images. Now, tell us more about what you mean by this.
So it's just another way of saying, we're going to meet a whole range of characters in our life. We're all so different, and truthfully, our interactions with each other are so different based on who we are. We see reality the way we perceive it. And so we meet these mages who are the shepherds, and we meet these demons who are the beasts. In my life, I've met amazing beasts, but I've also met terrible beasts. I've met amazing shepherds, but I've also met terrible shepherds. And it's just to say that these characters are also not binary. It's not good or bad. I had someone interview me 2 weeks ago, and they said to me, how do we slay the demon? It's not about slaying the demon. It's about growing through the demon. It's about growing through the beast. That's the most important piece. These are all just characters on our story, and we're just continuously on this journey. And the mythical play on it is just to tie it back to the stories we tell ourselves when we're young, or our parents passed down to us, these myths and fables.
This is such a cool read, Tramayne. Thank you so much for joining us. And
how
do you get a copy of this book, which has been described as a must-read for every CEO, CFO, manager and entrepreneur?
Books at all good bookstores. It's on Kindle, it's on Take-A-Lot, so they're available everywhere. Also, my website, if you want to reach out to me, is on the screen now, I see. And I think I would love everyone to give it a read, and also to give me feedback, because I'm also on my own journey of growth. So reach out to me, let's have a chat.
All right. Have a good one, Tramayne. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Superior. I appreciate it.
Thank you. That was our Saturday morning guest author, Tramayne Monaghan, and we've been chatting to him about his new book titled The Shepherd and the Beast.